The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting shortly. Thank you for joining us. We will be starting shortly. Okay, I'm going to start with reading the housekeeping details and the antitrust statement. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AICC's webinar today. I am Taryn Pyle, and I will be hosting this webinar. If you are new to AICC's webinars, I want to welcome you. Today's webinar is All Things Energy with Chris Landing from APPI. AICC, the Independent Packaging Association, is dedicated to uniting and celebrating the success of inspired independent packaging companies through education and networking opportunities in person, online, and in print. If you want to learn more about all that AICC offers members, you can visit our website at aiccbox.org or give us a call at 703-836-2422. One of our newest benefits is our free e-learning courses available to all member companies and their employees, now available in both English and Spanish, and you can find more information about the courses at our packaging school under the Learn tab on our website. We currently have over 60 courses available to all member companies and their employees. We have a few housekeeping details before we get started. The webinar today is about 30 minutes long. A copy of the presentation and a link to the recording will be provided via the email that you gave us when you registered for the course. The materials will be placed on Dropbox and you will need to download them to your computer. I do want you to know that in these webinars you can hear us, but we can't hear you. We do this because we're recording this session, so you have access to your webinar sessions whenever you need them. However, if you have a question, comments, or concerns at any time during the session, there is a question box in your control panel, and you can post a question at any time, and we will answer the questions at the end of the webinar. So right now, let's do a sound check. If you can hear me clearly and see my screen, please click on the orange hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. All right, thank you, everyone. In the event we go over the time allotted, any other questions can be sent via email, and an AICC staff or the presenter will follow up individually. With technology, there is always a possibility of losing a connection, sound, or viewing of the presentation. If this happens, please send a message to our site using this messaging feature. You should stay on the line and wait for the connection to begin again. If you get a dial tone or are disconnected from the site, you will need to call back in. This would indicate a connection problem on your end. As we begin, please remember AICC is an international trade association, and as such, members are bound to uphold the letter and spirit of all applicable competition and antitrust laws, including those of the US and Canada. During this meeting, there will be no discussion allowed concerning prices, customer or market allocations, specific accounts, discounts, terms, and all other matters prohibited by law. Otherwise, we will have to end the webinar immediately if there's any violation. And now for the main event, we have the pleasure of hearing from Chris Landing. Chris will be talking about all things energy. Chris?
Yes, thank you so much, Taryn. I appreciate that. And first off, thank you to everyone for taking a moment out of your day to join us today. I know everyone's extremely busy and it's appreciated, so I'm going to try to keep it pretty short. Maybe we'll go about 15 or so minutes, and then we'll have a period of time for questions after that. You can put your questions in the chat at the bottom, and we can go from there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is APPI's relationship with the AICC is only one of a number of member benefits that they offer, and I highly recommend you taking a look at the other ones and seeing if there's a possibility of working with them as well. So my name is Chris Landing, and I've been working with APPI for about 18 months now. Prior to this, I was with Solar City for a number of years, and then Tesla immediately following that. So I've been in the energy industry for about 5 or 6 years now, and I can't tell you how much I love working for APPI. I attended college at Goldie Beacom College, and then after that, I went to the United States Marine Corps and became a plane captain for the FA-18. Going back to our relationship with AICC, We've been endorsed by them since 2003. So we've had quite a long relationship, coming up about 16 years thus far. And they go into a tremendous amount of effort to go through and vet their people that they endorse. And we've loved this relationship throughout the years. Where we work, we've got a great map here that'll kind of show you things, and we can go into more depth on this later down the line. But let's just first start talking about the color coding. If we look at the green states, these are states where energy is deregulated for both natural gas as well as electricity. The majority of you, this is going to be your core area. If we look at the blue states, I know that there are a number of you that have factories all throughout this area, box plants, sheet plants. These are areas where we can help you out with natural gas. And then if we look at the dark gray area, these are areas that it's partially deregulated and kind of still not deregulated. They're very kind of complicated areas. There are options, but that's going to be more specific towards you, and that's a conversation that we can have after the webinar. Feel free to give me a call and we can talk about it. Now, the white states are areas where energy and natural gas are not deregulated, but we have a number of options, different solutions in terms of renewables and efficiency projects. We can also do efficiency projects all throughout the blue, green, and gray states, and that's something that we've been especially excited about more so recently. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the industry today, where things stand. We're going to talk about more specifically our procurement process, which is one of our core competencies. And then following that, we're going to talk about energy solutions, what exactly that means, and how you can apply it to your relationship with your energy specifically. So earlier I was talking about deregulation, and for some people you might not know exactly what that means. So we're going to go into that a little bit now. Basically, if you take a look at your electric bill, you'll notice that your costs are broken down into two main subsections. You have your supply side, and you'll see that over here in our generation plants on the left-hand side. And then you have your distribution prices on your utility bill. These two things are completely different. And in deregulated states, you can actually negotiate your supply rate, and you do not have to go directly with the utility. We work with over 40 different suppliers, and we go out and actually negotiate these prices and pin these supply companies against one another and use that, our buying clout, in order to drive rates low and be the best rate. And if you also look at your supply section of your utility bill, you'll notice that underneath your supply rate, your price to compare per kilowatt hour, all of these micro charges, fractions of pennies, distribution or transmission charges, and all kinds of other pass-through charges. If you look at everything to the left of the blue, vertical blue line, everything in that area can actually be negotiated into one fixed full requirements price. And that's exactly what we do. Rather than opening up your bill and seeing all of these different charges and it being varied month to month to month, we get into a fixed rate every month. You know exactly what that rate's going to be, and you have cost security there. Now, unfortunately, everything to the right side, the distribution of the energy, bringing it to the end user, your plant, your factory, that can't be negotiated. That's actually the utility itself. Now, an example here, we've brought up the PJM wholesale market. PJM is the largest markets in the nation. It's the surrounding area around Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. And what we're representing here in the top right-hand graph are electric day-ahead average prices. And what this is wholesale rates. So when you're with the utility, you're subject to the varied rate of whatever's going on in the The main thing we're looking at here is how volatile it is, your ups and downs and peaks and valleys. If you're getting your energy directly from the utility, you're subject to whatever's going on in the marketplace. So if we go back and we look on this graph, you can see between August of 2013 and August 14th, we see that massive spike in the middle. And what this was This was around the time of the polar vortex. I'm not sure if anybody remembers this period of time, but during this period of time, electricity rates shot through the roof, and people that were not in competitive supply agreements were subject to those rates. And because of this, during the winter of 2014, people ended up paying 3, 4, and in some cases 5 times the rate that they were paying just the previous month. And so for people that have a significant utility bill, just imagine all of a sudden getting hit with a rate 4 or 5 times that. There's no way to budget in your budget anything like this, and then it just hits you from nowhere. Now, on the bottom left of this, you see that we have a historical natural gas price. We follow natural gas prices daily. We're on the Henry Hub every single morning, and we are tracking all of this. And the reason being is that natural gas prices are actually a really good indicator as to where electricity prices are going to go. Natural gas is the last fuel used in the creation of electricity, and therefore those rates tend to give us a really good indicator for electricity. They lag about maybe a week, 2 weeks, you never know the exact amount, but it's always a really good indicator. And if you grab 2 charts of natural gas and wholesale market settlement prices for electricity, and you have the same time frame and put them on top together, you'll see that they go 1 and 1 together. So it's really important that we track all of this information. The way that we track all of this information is through our sister company, the Energy Research Council. APPI is a little bit different from most of these companies, mainly in our relationship with data. We're data driven. We are not just speculating and guessing, but we are taking millions of data points every single day and collecting them and putting them into a number of charts to help us in every specific region. So if we're taking a look in the top right-hand corner here, it's just an example chart of the West Penn Power region and the average benchmark price for the retail electricity. And what that is indicating is it's showing what the rates are and how things are trending for 12-month, 24-month, and 36-month contracts. And we're able to track that through this. And once again, in the bottom left-hand corner, we just have another example of the exact type of thing. And it's super important to understand the data tracking that we do and that we're not out there just guessing. Our relationship with the Energy Research Council is one of our strongest relationships. In fact, suppliers themselves use the same data that we're using. They purchase it from the Energy Research Council. So we're using the same data. It gives us a really good indicator of where things are going to go. The main reason, though, that we're looking at all of this data is because we want to answer 2 main questions. We want to say, is now the time to buy? And how long should I buy for? Which is talking about your hedge. If we take a look at the next graph, which is one of my favorite graphs, honestly, this is the one I think is the easiest to help educate people on exactly what we're doing. If you look at this graph and you see the gray bars in the background, this is representing your price to compare with the utility. So these are the historic utility rates throughout the year. This is in the Med-Ed region. So this, don't pay attention necessarily to the rates, just more so this is just an example itself. So the blue, gold, and green lines, these are the retail prices. And what you'll notice is if you were with just the utility paying their price to compare rate throughout this period of time from January 2014 through about March of this year, this chart is indicating, you would have been paying about an average of 0.072 cents per kilowatt hour. In that same exact region, or time frame rather, the average benchmark price for retail competitive supply contracts is 0.064. So throughout the period of time, you can see that had you been in competitive supply agreements, it's beat the PTC price. It would have been a great hedge. You would have paid a lot lower. You would have known exactly what you were paying. And although there are times you'll see on here where the price to compare does drop below an average benchmark price, it's more about the hedge throughout the period of time, not the 2 or 3 month period where it might drop. It's over the period of time. We want to make sure that we beat the hedge. Now, it's a super simple process in order to take a look at this. The first thing that we do is a bill analysis. It's as simple as sending over your most recent bill copy for each meter that you have. And then we'll go over it. We're going to create a custom usage profile. We're going to take a look to see what your load factor is, what your rate class is, how much your annual spend is, how many kilowatt hours you're consuming. We're going to take all of this and we're going to take a look to see what your best relationship with energy is going to be. Depending on your region and where you are, it's going to be completely different. So it's first important to just take a look at your bill and see where you stand. Now, if procurement is a good option for you, the next thing that we'll do is there are 2 forms that you'll fill out that give us the ability to work with your utility and suppliers on your behalf to go out and secure these rates. We'll submit all of this to our 36 vetted and approved suppliers. And I want to take a second on this. So we have 36 vetted and approved suppliers that we work with, but there are over 300 suppliers in the nation. So why do we only work with 36 of them? Well, we've picked the ones that have the best reputation and, more importantly, have the best contract. It's not always about the rate that you pay. It's also about what your contract terms are. Depending on your type of business, you might need to have different types of language within the agreements, and that's what we negotiate for you. Also, as this is a member benefit for the AICC and their members, there is no upfront cost or obligations. This is a service that's provided to you on their behalf. Once we get all of our pricing back from the suppliers on the same day with the same exact contract terms, which is important to remember because we're comparing green apples to green apples here. By having all suppliers submit their pricing on the same day with the same contract terms, then they are all pricing on what the current market is. If we get one price, say last week, and then we get another price from another supplier this week, they're working with completely different parameters. Marketplace changes. Commodities are traded on a minute-to-minute basis, so things are constantly changing. Once we have all of this data, we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to advise you and figure out what the best option is going to be. We're going to work together to figure this out, and you'll actually be able to see this on this chart. So once we have all the pricing back, we may or may not decide to put something like this in front of you. In some cases, it's a simple process, and we take a look at it and we make our recommendation because we know we're doing hundreds of RFPs every month. So sometimes we can look at something like this and it jumps out and we know exactly what to do. And so we'll just make the recommendation. In other cases, we want to bring you in on that process so that you can make the best decision for your business. For this one, you can see that we've highlighted the 24-month agreement through APPI Energy as it is the lowest rate that we received back. And then we highlighted in red that EDF Energy 48-month contract. This is just giving you the high and the lows of your contracts that we got back, not necessarily our recommendation. So, for instance, that 24-month with APPI Energy looks really great because it's the lowest rate, right? But if we're not going to be able to secure a rate that low within the next 24 months based on our projections, then although it's the lowest rate, we actually might recommend a 36-month because of the hedge. And it's important to understand that when we talk individually after this, it'll give us an opportunity to really go more in depth on your specific industry and exactly how we can help you with that. Once we make a decision and we decide to go with a certain supplier, this is where I think we really come into play as our company. Our customer service team is something that's provided to you as this member benefit program. A lot of cases, if you just have a supplier, then you have to interact with them and you have to do everything with them. Having us represent you and go out and get these competitive supply agreements also gives you access to our customer service team. We have such a high buying clout in this industry that a lot of the suppliers have dedicated reps and in some cases dedicated teams that only work with us. So rather than you hopping on a call to try to get in touch with them and being on hold for half an hour or 45 minutes and hoping that you get in touch with the right person, you contact whoever your direct contact is with our customer service team, and they will call our personal representative at that supply company and just take out all of the waiting time, which is great. They're also going to monitor your bills and be able to point out anything. One thing that I've noticed with some of the box companies I have been working with is their tax exemption. If you are tax exempt, you should take a look at your energy bill. This is a freebie for you, and see if you're paying taxes. You can do a tax feasibility study at your plant to see what your offset is if you are tax exempt, and then we can apply that to your utility bill and get that removed from your utility bill. In some cases, these costs can be significant, and you definitely want to make sure that you take a look at that. Now, energy solutions is something that's pretty new in the mainstream industry, but this is something we've been doing for a long time now. Basically, what we are looking to do is build an energy profile for you so that you're not just getting your energy bill and just paying it, sending it to the utility company, but more so you're looking at your energy just like you would look at any other thing in your plant to see how can we get this rate lower, which we talked about in procurement, but also how can we look at our relationship with energy in terms of how can we become more efficient? How can we become more sustainable? Does our building have enough roof space to support solar? Could we do battery backup and create our entire own ecosystem where we're creating our own energy, we're storing our own energy, and we're consuming our own energy? You see this in the residential market a lot right now. One thing that you can do with battery backup, which is great, is something called demand curving. And I'm not going to go too much into it because this is only going to apply to maybe a handful of people in the industry. But if you create battery backup during the periods of time when your machines are your plant's putting the biggest strain on the utility grid, what you can do during that period of time is actually use your battery backup, and therefore your demand rating will go down, therefore bringing your utility rate down. And we can go more into that on an individual basis. Another good thing that we can do when we're procuring, but also applies to energy solutions, is there's a lot of people that want to represent their company as a sustainable company, but maybe you don't have the space to go solar or to maybe put something in to generate wind power. So for these clients that want to represent sustainability, but maybe don't have the space to do it, we can actually procure green energy for you so that you do have the ability to say, hey, our sheet plant, our box plant is run 100% on renewables or 80%, whatever it is that you're looking to do, we're able to do that. And it's really important to know that those options are available to you. Now, APPI, this is just us by the numbers. We actually manage over 15,000 commercial and industrial accounts. In that, and you've heard me speak about buying clout a number of times throughout this, and that's because we manage over 10 billion kilowatt hours annually. Our suppliers, we bring them a lot of business, and they want to keep us happy. It's part of the reason we're able to negotiate such low rates. Now, natural gas is another thing that we negotiate as well, and we manage over 18 million decatherms. That is a tremendous number. It's a lot of natural gas. Just like we have our partnership with the AICC, we have 158 of these partnerships. We're endorsed by over 150 associations. Now, let's just talk about the importance of being endorsed by an association and why that's so important. When you're endorsed by an association, we are working with a number of this association's members, the AICC in this case specifically. With this, it gives us the ability to talk to suppliers, and they know that we work with your members. So therefore, if you're a smaller box plant, we're not just going and representing you, we're representing everyone in the industry, and these suppliers know that. And so they fight to keep us happy because we represent you, and they fight to keep you happy because you're part of this association that we are represented in. I mean, we just won the TIPA ABC of the Year award. You'll see that in the bottom left-hand corner for year 2017 through 2018. We were ranked as the top energy broker in the nation. And this is over all of the big guys that you know the names of. I won't mention their names, but in the nation. We currently have 42 employees, and this number is constantly growing. I can tell you that this graph was put together 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we already have more people on staff now. We're very big in our local community. We just bought 2 buildings in downtown Salisbury. We're working with the community to turn that community around, and it's been really fun to be a part of. Really, that's about it for the presentation right now. The one thing that I really want everyone to walk away with is to begin the conversation. Energy is extremely complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Our time with you to go down this path is very minimal. All we need to do is begin the conversation, take a look at the utility bills, and then we really take it from there. So with that, I'll toss it back to Taryn, and we'll see if we have any questions out there.
Thank you, Chris. I'm hoping you can hear me.
I can.
I have a little trouble with my mic. If there's any questions that anyone would like to ask, please post them in the question section now, and we will read them out loud so that everyone can hear them. Chris, while we're waiting for questions, I have one for you.
Absolutely.
This is always the big one, is, is doing the work worth it? What kind of savings can a person expect to look at or see realize from their company, for their company?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And obviously I can't really say any number. It is so vast. It's going to be completely different based off of your relationship with your energy, your region that you're in, how much energy you consume. Everything's just going to be completely different. Also, it's going to depend on whether we just do energy procurement or whether we're going to be able to do an efficiency project out there as well. But I would say that if I had to throw out a number, that on the low end, we're going to try to maybe around 10%, and on the high end, maybe 25% cost reduction. But once again, these numbers are really just guesses. You want to just begin the conversation, have us take a look at your utility bills, and then we can really dive in and get a better understanding of exactly what you could save.
Okay, here's another question. How do I know if we are in a supply agreement?
Perfect. So the best way to know if you're in a supply agreement is to take a look at your bills. What you'll see on there is you're going to see another section under the supply agreement, and you're going to see a third party's name. So you might see something like APPI Energy. You might see Constellation. You might see Nextera, something of this nature. But if you send me your bills, and I'll throw this up here now so you can see it, clanding at APPIenergy.com. It's really simple to just send me your bills, and then I can do the analysis for you.
Chris, important question. Does this cost anything for a company to do this?
No. So as a member benefit for the AICC, our services are provided to you at no cost. So once again, it doesn't hurt to begin the conversation and just see what you could do to help your company out. Another thing that's important I kind of want to talk about that isn't necessarily answering your question right there, but it's something I forgot to speak about throughout the webinar. And this is something that's important. So you might already be in a supply agreement, and that's great because you're taking advantage of deregulation, and you're probably in a better spot because of that. Now, what we do though that really sets us apart is we're monitoring the market for our clients about 18 to 24 months out from a contract expiration. So in an example, let's say that you are currently in a contract, but it doesn't expire until December of 2020. So we're a little bit over a year out. We would already be looking at the market to find the low points and capture and secure the lowest rate. And so a lot of times our clients are not necessarily signing agreements that are starting in what we call the prompt month, the next month. They're actually already in agreements, and we're signing agreements that aren't starting for another year, another 18 months, another 6 months, just depending on when we can capture that market low. And that's really one of the best benefits of this is once we kind of get in the system and we're up and running, we are monitoring everything to help you throughout this entire process, monitoring the market, figuring out when the future curves are, identifying the low points, and making the moves at the best possible time to hedge.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much. I think this was very valuable information. I feel like I've heard this before, but I learn something every time I get on a new call with APPI. I really appreciate your taking the time. There will be a recording of this, and we will send it out to all the people that have responded, as well as those that were unable to participate today. Thanks again, Chris.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Taryn. I appreciate it. And once again, thank you to everyone who came. And if you're not taking advantage of the education program that the AICC offers, I would definitely recommend after the webinar going online, taking a look at that. There's a tremendous amount of information there and something you can definitely add to your company.
Thank you, Chris.